did we get here? How did we get to the point that his father actually killed him? So let's go. How did Marvin Gaye die? Inside the Motown Legends murder. After inflicting decades of torment and abuse, Marvin Gaye Sr. shot and killed his son, Marvin Gaye, at point-blank range inside the family's Los Angeles home on April 1st, 1984. By the way, I was only 4 years old. As music critic Michael Eric Dyson once said, Motown legend Marvin Gaye chased away the demons for millions with his heavenly sound and divine art. But while this soulful voice healed those who listened, the man behind it suffered a tremendous amount of pain. That pain largely centered on Gaye's relationship with his father, Marvin Gaye Sr., an abusive man, a religious abusive man, very, 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 very religious, who never ever wanted his son and made it no secret. A violent, religious alcoholic, Gaye took out his anger on his children, especially Marvin. But not only did Marvin Gaye endure this abuse childhood, he eventually found worldwide fame as a soul singer for the iconic Motown records in the 1960s and 70s. But by the 80s, Gaye moved back in with his parents in Los Angeles following a losing battle with cocaine addiction as well as financial difficulties. It was there in the family's Los Angeles home that the tension between Gaye and his father reached its tragic climax when Marvin Gaye Sr. fatally shot his son 3 times in the chest on April 1st, 1984. But as the Prince of Motown's brother Frankie later said in his memoir, Marvin Gaye, my brother, Marvin Gaye's death seemed written in stone from the very beginning. So already we know that, first of all, it must be sad as hell to know that one of your parents never wanted you, right? And nobody wants a violent household. And it must be even more shitty that it was a violent household from somebody who was dealing with alcohol. You know, there's nothing worse than having an alcoholic father or parent, but having an alcoholic parent that's also violent is the worst. And usually, because I did read that he was the second oldest of 4 children, and they all said he got the wrath of it. And it always seems to be that one kid that always gets the most beatings, or was worse treated. Also too, I must mention, because again I do a lot of true crimes, and especially for my Patreon. By the way, there's probably like 90 plus hours of true crime you can dive into on my Patreon if you decide to join. I just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, it's funny that a lot of these homes that are abusive, it kills me to know that the families are very religious, and I've done a lot, and it doesn't matter what race you homosexuality was not accepted. A lot of people did not understand it, and especially if you were religious or part of a church or anything like that, any type of homosexuality was not welcomed. It was not known of. It was like, you're what, you know? When people don't understand stuff, people become very cruel and mean. So, anyway, he was bullied a lot about his father, and the fact that his last name was Gaye, so eventually he did add a E to his last name, when I guess would have been pronounced Marvin Gaye, Gaye, besides just Gaye. So that E, the Gaye E, I guess, helped him out. But then even so, like, during his music career, everyone knew him as Marvin Gaye. Anyway, so Marvin Gaye, he was born on April 2nd, 1939 in Washington, D.C. From the start, there was violence inside the home thanks to his father, and violence outside the home due to the rough neighborhood and public housing project in which they lived in. They did not live on the best streets or cities at all, and a lot of times back then, if you were in any type of subsidized housing, meaning they go by your income, it usually was not in a great neighborhood. And Washington, D.C., let me tell y'all something. Washington, D.C. is a shit show. I can't even figure out why the White House is in Washington, D.C., but it's a shit show. I'm just gonna tell you as it is. It's a fucking shit show. Gaye described living in his father's house as living with a king, a very peculiar, changeable, cruel, and all-powerful king. That king, Marvin Gaye Sr., he was born in Kentucky, where he was born to an abusive father of his own in 1914. By the time he had his own family, this is Marvin Gaye Sr. Marvin Gaye Sr. was a minister in a strict Pentecostal section whose disciplined his children severely, with Marvin reportedly getting the worst of it. Again, I don't talk religion on my channel, but any person that wants to like join a certain religion that think that abusing their children and wives or whoever is okay, I don't know. While under his father's roof, the young Gaye suffered vicious abuse from his father nearly every day. His sister later recalled that Marvin's childhood consisted of a series of brutal whippings. As Marvin himself later said, by the time I was 12, there wasn't an inch on my body that hadn't been bruised and beaten by him. That is so sad. This abuse prompted him to turn to music rather quickly as an escape. He also later said that if it wasn't for his mother's encouragement and care, he would have killed himself. The abuse that caused these suicidal thoughts may have been partly fueled by Marvin Gaye's complicated emotions about his own rumored homosexuality. Whether or not it was true, the source of the rumors was largely that he cross-dressed, meaning that his father would put on females' clothing, a behavior that was supposedly linked with homosexuality, especially in the decades past. I say this because, again, a lot of people back then did not understand this homosexuality situation. They did not embrace the rainbow community, right? And so a lot of times when people don't understand stuff, they become very mean. They become the bully, and according to Marvin Gaye, his father often also developing an extraordinary talent for music. He went from performing at his father's church at the age of 4 to mastering both the piano and drums by the time he was 18. It also reminds me of Prince. Prince too. His father, again, perfect fucking example. Prince, their parents were Presbyterian or Jehovah's Witness. It was one of them, but he was also brought up in a really abusive home, and he would be punished a lot or locked in a room a lot, and that's how Prince was able to, and don't quote me because I do not remember, but Prince taught himself how to play numerous instruments. I want to say more than 10, definitely more than 10, but the same thing with Marvin Gaye. You know, his family, his father was very, very abusive, very, very religious, and because he was so depressed, you know, he turned to music, where, again, like I said, at the age of 4, he was mastering both the piano and drums by the time he was 18, singing at 4, piano and drums by the time he was 10. He developed a deep love for R&B and doo-wop. Now, in doo-wop, I had to look up myself, and what that is, back in the day, think of it as okay, the Jackson 5, for instance. You know how like Michael Jackson was lead, always had the microphone, and he had his brothers in the back playing the instruments and singing background vocals. That is considered like the doo-wop. You know, one singer, one lead singer, and you have people in the back, part of your group, that plays the instruments or just harmonizing, basically. That's a good word. They were your backup. They weren't backup singers because they were part of the group, like the Jackson 5. But y'all get what I mean. And so anyway, but that was what doo-wop. One lead singer and the rest of the group members would play instruments or harmonize for you, but they were considered part of the group, not background singers. I don't know if I'm making sense. Okay. As he started to make a name for himself professionally, Marvin Gaye wanted to distance himself from his toxic relationship with his father, so he changed his name from Gaye to Gaye. Gaye reportedly also changed his name in order to stop rumors that he and his father were both homosexuals. So like I said, between the rumors about his father and his last name being Gaye, he was bullied a lot in school, and he also was abused at home. Gaye eventually moved with a musical colleague of his to Detroit and was able to secure a performance for the biggest name on that city's music scene, Motown Records, founded Berry Gordy. He was quickly signed to the label and soon married Gordy's older sister, Anna. Now, in between then, real quickly, because of the abuse, you know, it's Marvin Gaye dropped out of high school. He never graduated, and he went to the army. But when he was in the army, he realized that he didn't like it, stars in the shine and you don't, all you're doing is harmonizing in the back. So that started phasing out. It's like music has its phases, right? Like 1 minute this might be hot and the next minute it's not, but then they bring it back decades later because anyway, but you get what I'm saying, because this was back in the 60s and 70s, and then it kind of faded out. But then we had the Jackson 5, and there was also a lot of groups that you probably can think of, that like Diana Ross was in one group. I forgot the name of the group right now, but she was the lead, and that was drama within their group. So but so by then, and also too, he wasn't getting paid the amount he wanted to, all this nonsense, so he decided to go solo. He decided to just brand himself, and back then, a lot of times, the artists did not understand how much power they had amongst themselves, and Marvin Gaye was probably one of the first people that said, you know what, I'm breaking away from this group shit. I want to be me, I want to sing me, and I want to have more rights on what I do. And that's what he did, and that's how he was able to make a name for himself. And you know, he went to Motown and everything else, but he did start off with groups here and there. But okay, though Gaye became the Prince of Motown and enjoyed success for the next 15 years, his relationship with his father never truly healed. Yeah, people, like, you know, people don't get over, like, the abuse their parents bring on them, you know. By the time Marvin Gaye finished what would be his last tour in 1983, he had developed a cocaine addiction to cope with the pressure of the road, as well as his failed marriage to Anna due to his infidelities, and which resulted in a continuous legal battle. Addiction had made him paranoid and financially unstable, inspiring him to return home. When he learned that his mother was recovering from a kidney surgery, that only gave him more reason to move into the family home in Los Angeles. So he was out doing him. But I guess, you know, a lot of people can't deal with the pressure, you know, of being a superstar, and that happens a lot in the industry. And it's funny that everybody wants to be, you know, rich and famous, but being famous is not always, you know, the greatest. People are always after your money. You're never home. A lot of people find it hard to not cheat because they get lonely on the road, and they get stressed, and then they develop anxiety, and then you read about yourself in the paper, and now you have, you know, your past demons that you're still dealing with. And then when you have all this money, you know, you start dabbling into drugs. And one thing about being a celebrity too, you don't have any privacy. That's why one of the acts, Majestic, someone asked me, would I rather be famous or just have the money? And I'm like, I don't want to be famous. I'd rather just have the money. I don't want cameras in my face. I don't want people popping out of the fucking bushes. I don't want people behind my car trying to take like pictures or of my family. It's not the greatest. And a lot of people do go broke because of drugs, and they can't deal with, you know, their past. But once he moved back home, he found himself in a pattern of violent fights with his father. Even after decades, the old problems between the two were still raging. My husband never wanted Marvin, and he never liked him, Alberta Gaye said. That's Marvin Gaye's mother. Marvin Gaye's mother later explained, he used to say he didn't think he was really his child. I told him that was nonsense. He knew Marvin was his, but for some reason he didn't love Marvin. And what's worse, he didn't want me to love Marvin either. Furthermore, even as a grown man, Marvin Gaye harbored troubled emotions related to his father cross-dressing and rumored homosexuality. His father was also very jealous of Marvin Gaye's success and what he accomplished. I have to mention his father with same fascination with women's clothes. In my case, that has nothing to do with any attraction for men. Sexually, men don't interest me. It's also something I fear. Again, that's really sad because people are struggling with, I don't want to say inner demons, but I guess it is inner demons. Like, just be you. But back then, he couldn't have been him. He couldn't, like women and then dress like them. You see what I'm saying? It just wasn't acceptable back then at all. Whether it was these fears, Marvin Gaye's drug addiction, Marvin Gaye Sr. alcoholism, and or a myriad of other causes, Gaye's time back home quickly proved to be violent. Gaye eventually get Gaye out, but he later returned saying, "I just have one father. I want to make peace with him." He would never get that chance, and that's another thing too. Marvin Gaye's father would kick him out, allow him back in, kick him out again, back in. It was just like, his father had to have control. And because by now, he's broke, he's trying to recover from his addiction, it's like he really had no other place to go. But remember, it just wasn't abuse with him. He also abused the mother and, his siblings as well. But the death of Marvin Gaye started with a fight like so many other. On April 1st, 1984, Marvin Gaye and Marvin Gaye Sr. became engaged in a physical altercation after one another. Back up. Okay, I'm sorry. On April 1st, 1984, Marvin Gaye and Marvin Gaye Sr. became engaged in a physical altercation after another one of their verbal battles in the Los Angeles home. Then Gaye allegedly began beating his father until his mother, Alberta, separated them. And from what I read, the whole argument was between Marvin Gaye Sr. and the mother at first. Then the mother went back to where Marvin Gaye Jr.'s room was, and that's when the senior father followed behind, and that's when Marvin Jr. got involved. Now, it is said that they're not sure why the mother went back there, whether it was for comfort, whether it was for protection, but she ran into Marvin Gaye Jr.'s room and told his father to get out. The father did not like that. This is my room, blah, blah, blah. This is my house. And they ended up having an altercation. And it seemed as if, that I read other articles, that Marvin Gaye began beating the shit out of his mother. The mother separated them. While Gaye was talking with his mother in his bedroom and trying to calm down, his father reached for a gift that his son had once given him, a 38. Why? Okay. I have to stop here. Why the fuck would you give your father a gun, knowing how violent he is, knowing that he's a violent alcoholic, knowing that he abused all of your siblings, including yourself, and you have physically witnessed him fucking up your mother? I just don't understand why would you buy him a gift for a gun? Anyway, Marvin Gaye Sr. entered the bedroom and, without a word, shot his son once in the chest. That one shot was enough to kill Gaye, but after he fell to the ground, his father approached him and shot him a second and a third time at point-blank range. Damn, it says here that more than 10,000 people attended the funeral following the death of Marvin Gaye. guest house on the property with his wife, was the first one to enter the scene just after Marvin Gaye's death. Frankie later recalled how his mother collapsed before them, crying, "He shot Marvin, he shot Marvin, he killed my boy, he killed my boy." Marvin Gaye was pronounced dead at the age of 44 at 1:10 p.m. on that day. When police arrived, Marvin Gaye Sr. was sitting calmly on the porch, gun in hand. When police asked him if he loved his son, Gaye replied, "Let's say I didn't dislike him." While Marvin Gaye Sr. was never shy about his sentiments towards his son. Like, why would you have venom? I don't understand that towards your son. His attitude somewhat changed following Marvin Gaye's death. He made statements professing his grief over losing his beloved child and claimed that he wasn't fully aware of what he was doing. You had years and years of that shit, and the fact that you did 3 rounds. In a jail cell interview before the trial, Gaye admitted that "I pulled the trigger," but claimed that he thought the gun was loaded with BB pellets. BB gun, but it wasn't a BB gun. The first one didn't seem to bother him. He put his hand up to his face like he'd been hit with a BB. Then I fired again. Furthermore, in his defense, Gaye claimed that his son had become something like a beast-like person on cocaine and that the singer beat him terribly before the shooting occurred. The subsequent investigation, however, found no physical evidence that Gaye suffered a beating. Lieutenant Robert Martin, the lead detective on the case, said there was no indication of bruises. Nothing like that. He's been punched out or any kind of that stuff. As for the nature of the argument that preceded Marvin Gaye's death, distraught neighbors claimed at the time that the fight was over plans for the singer's 45th birthday. That's right. So he was shy of his 45th birthday. He would have turned 45 the next day. Claimed that at the time of the fight was over plans for the singer's 45th birthday, which was the next day. Later report claimed that the fight had broken out over an insurance policy letter that Alberta had misplaced. That's what I read in multiple articles that I was reading. Though the father was out of control, this time the fight had to do with his mother and something with an insurance policy, or he wanted to do something and the mother couldn't find the paperwork, and that's how the argument actually started. Whatever the cause and whatever the truth of Gaye's BB claims, he added that he was remorseful and that he didn't even know that his son had died until a detective told him hours later, which to me, I don't know, maybe he was drunk. "I just didn't believe it," he said. "I thought he was kidding on me. I said, 'Oh God of mercy, oh, oh, oh.' It just shocked me. I just went to pieces, just cold. I just sat there and I didn't know what to do. Just sitting there like a mummy." Ultimately, the court seemed to have some sympathy for Marvin Gaye's senior version of events, despite the brutal way that Marvin Gaye had died. On September 20th, 1984, Gaye was allowed to enter a plea bargain of no contest to one charge of voluntary manslaughter. He was given a suspended... What? This is why no one has any type of faith in our legal system, because he was given a 6-year sentence with a 5-year probation. He later died in a California nursing home in 1998 at the age of 84. his sentencing on November 20th, 1984. He says, "If I could bring him back, I would. I was afraid of him. I thought I was going to hurt him. I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm really sorry for everything that happened. I loved him. I wish he could step through the door right now. I'm paying the price right now." But whether Marvin Gaye Sr. was indeed truly sentenced with death, I don't even think he. Do I think he had penance for it? No. It was a cold, conscious act that the beloved singer was gone forever. Father and son were never able to escape the cycle of abuse that lasted for the entire life. That's just fucking sad as fuck. Also, too, though, so real quickly, because obviously I cannot. So, real quickly, like I said, as of this year, it would have been his 83rd birthday. He was one of the main singers that created the Motown sound of the 1960s, first as a session performer and later as a solo artist. His Motown hits include "How Sweet It Is," "How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You, by You." I love that song. And I heard it through the grapevine. And he had duets with Mary Wells, Kim Weston, Diana Ross, and so many other people. He also is mainly known for that song, Sexual Healing, Sexual Healing, Sexual Healing. And in the 1970s, he recorded the album What's Going On and Let's Get It On, becoming one of the first artists from Motown, along with Stevie Wonder, to break away from the company on his own merits. So yeah, fuck contracts, forget all of that, I'm leaving, and that is that. It was, like I said, mentioned before, it was not really heard of. Everybody was like in their groups or had like their, I don't like the word backup singers back then, but I guess that's what they really were. You gotta call it as it is, right? Okay, after a period in Europe as a tax exile in the early 1980s, he made a successful comeback with the 1982 Grammy Award-winning hit Sexual Healing and its album Midnight Love. So, you know, Marvin Gaye was producing music during a time that there was a lot going on, riots, racism, a lot, and then of course with the rumors of his father. And then it just quickly says here that his father was a minister. He was married to his wife Alberta. Oh, listen to this shit. He married his wife Alberta Cooper in 1935. Alberta already had a son named Michael, but after saying he couldn't raise another man's son, Gaye sent Michael to live with his sister-in-law. And the funny thing is, he couldn't raise another man's child, but then you didn't want the kids of your own. Like, make it make sense. And then it says that he fathered, he had 4 kids by Alberta, and then he had 2 other kids because of his extramarital affairs. He was described as a strict father to his 4 children. He would make them be in church and observe an extended Sabbath on every Saturday. He would make the kids go to church every Sunday. Gaye would also question his kids on Bible passages and would beat them also too, I don't know if we mentioned it, but his father was so against him doing any type of music. So his father did not agree with his son's choices, but then he became very, very jealous of his money. And at one point too, Marvin Gaye was a breadwinner, and he had a problem with that. His son was a breadwinner. His son was popular, singing on the road. You know, his father just flat out just could not deal with it. Okay, I think that's basically all. You know, but he did have a lot of success, and so I heard it through the grapevine. Too busy thinking about my baby. That's the way love is. He had so many hits, but anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I love you guys for watching.